Around 2 years ago, I stopped having Botox. Instead, I use a little handheld laser device every other day, which as things stand, for me, wins out over Botox. Now that might sound unlikely, because Botox works by freezing muscle movement, completely smoothing out wrinkles in some places, and this doesn't do that. But using it consistently and over a period of months, I noticed my frown lines were soft enough that I didn't feel I needed Botox anymore. Not that we need cosmetic treatments, but you know what I mean. So in this video, I'm going to talk through the device I use and why, after testing another popular home laser, that's me pressing really hard, I went back to this one. I'll discuss what it can improve and what it can't. And if you're new here, I'm Clare Johnston, a journalist in my 50s exploring how to age well, look and feel good for longer. And I test a lot of things, but I stick with very few. Home laser is one of them. So here's why. So I'm 53 now, and I first started having Botox just in my frown lines around the age of 47. And I do that around once every 9 or 10 months. And that's because I didn't love the feeling of having a frozen forehead. I'm an expressive person and I have a very expressive face. And although Botox has been used safely for decades, I also don't love the idea of unnecessary injectables. Also, as someone who is a big champion of building muscle as we age, I don't like the idea of weakening it even on my forehead. So in the past, I would let each Botox treatment completely wear off and only get it done again when my frown lines really started to bother me. And by that, I mean when they would take on that deeper, permanently scowling kind of a look. Even though I didn't relish having Botox treatments, I did expect to just have to keep getting them done for the foreseeable future. So where did the laser come in? Well, the one I use is the Nira Pro. Now, I have reviewed a few Nira devices on the channel before because they've brought out different models over the years. And when I did these reviews, I always felt that the laser made some difference to the depth of the lines, particularly on my forehead. But they came back weeks after I stopped using it. And so initially, I just didn't keep going with it and I stuck with the Botox. That was until I interviewed the Nira creator, David Bean, and I'm going to link that interview below because it was quite an interesting one. He described using the Nira longer term as a workout for your skin, and that kind of stuck with me as something I liked the idea of.
So with skin, I equate it to exercise, right? If you have an exercise regimen, I know you do. I enjoy exercising, but it's tough. But you feel great afterwards. You know, sometimes during not so much, but after you just feel invigorated, right? So just like with muscle building, you want to pull muscle, but you want to stress it, and then your body reacts. So the Nira is similar. We provide daily stress when you treat with heat shock proteins through the Nira, thermal interaction.
And based on that conversation, I decided to try their newer Nira Pro model that they had sent to me for review. It was then called the Nira Pro Plus, and it was the second generation of the Nira Pro models. They're now onto their third, which is called the Nira Pro 3. And when they brought out the newer, faster version of the Nira Pro, I thought I would commit to using it every other day, longer term, just to see what would happen. It's a non-ablative laser device, which means it doesn't damage the surface of your skin. Instead, it delivers controlled heat just under the surface. And the goal is simple: to trigger your skin to produce more collagen. It specifically targets water in your skin, penetrating to just under about 1 millimeter in depth, so not deep enough to affect fat. That heat creates what's called a cell stress response, and your skin releases heat shock proteins which signal repair processes, and part of that repair is increased collagen production. And one of the reasons I have always had a bit more time for Nira devices, and I am not sponsored by Nira, but it's just that their laser is one of the few at-home devices that actually has published clinical data behind it, specifically looking at wrinkle reduction around the eyes. And as I said, I've tested most of the Nira models over the years, so if you want to see a comparison video with more details on the clinical trial that was used to gain FDA clearance for the treatment of periorbital wrinkles, I've also linked that in the description. But it's important to say, home lasers are not a quick fix. They're not going to give you a dramatic transformation either. You have to use them consistently, in my case every other day, over weeks and months to see results. So the last time I had Botox was in May 2024, and usually by around 10 months later, my frown lines would be annoying me sufficiently enough that I would go and have it done again. But by the time I reached that point after the 2024 treatment, I had started to use the Nira Pro consistently for a couple of months. And the makers say results typically take about 8 to 12 weeks to show up. So despite it being 10 months since my last Botox treatment, I didn't feel the need at that stage to have it done. And I also thought I could see an improvement in the depth of my forehead lines in general. But the biggest sign the laser was helping was simply the fact I wasn't noticing my frown lines so much. So I just decided to keep going with the laser, and those frown lines stayed in check. Or at least they did. Until I tried switching devices, because towards the end of 2025, I agreed to test what looked like a more sophisticated home laser device called the Dermrays. And for the last 12 weeks of 2025, I used it pretty much every other day, following the recommendations, which do vary in frequency the longer you go on using it. And this is my Dermrays experience in a nutshell. This is the device, and on paper, it seems similar to the Nira, though more advanced in some ways. It's more robust than the Nira Pro, which is a lighter, handheld, rechargeable device, so you have to keep topping up the charge. That makes the Nira more portable, but I find that you need to store it upright and watch that it doesn't topple over, because that alone can affect the function of the cooling fan. So that was a bit of a design flaw for me. And I also feel like it's a bit flimsy from that perspective. The Dermrays, on the other hand, it plugs in, it's heavier, it looks and feels more solid. It's also quicker to use, covering larger areas faster, and it penetrates slightly deeper into the skin. It also has a robust cooling system built in, which works very well. But unlike the Nira, which feels like a gentle warmth when the laser is triggered, if I accidentally triggered the Dermrays over areas like my eyebrows, it really nipped. And within days of starting to use it, I noticed my skin became visibly drier, and at 8 weeks in, my frown lines strangely looked deeper and were starting to annoy me again. Why that is hard to say, and it may just have been because my skin was dehydrated and therefore looking more lined. I tried adjusting the intensity settings, lowering them a little, but there was just something about the way this device impacted my skin, possibly because of the slight difference in wavelength and depth, that just didn't work out for me compared with the Nira. That was frustrating because, as I say, it does top the Nira in terms of the overall design spec. The Nira can also be drying, but I found that using it every other day, my skin adjusted and I don't find it an issue in the same way as it was with the Dermrays. For both devices, an inbuilt sensor detects when the tip is flat against your skin and allows you to trigger the laser. But with the Dermrays, that worked great all over my face, apart from areas on my forehead where I just could not get it to work. Okay, let me just show you with the Dermrays, okay? It moves really quickly when it works, okay? Fantastic, really good. But I cannot get it to treat certain parts of my forehead. None of that is working. There, that's worked. That's me pressing really hard. Temples, no problem. Anywhere else on the face, no problem whatsoever. That's all really good. So the only way I can get it to work is if I sort of, push my skin like that, which is no good really. So you can see there that I was literally pressing it into my skin and the sensor wasn't allowing me to continue. So all in all, it just didn't work out for me. That was my experience of the Dermrays. There are a lot of reviewers out there who prefer it to the Nira and report great results. But when I swapped back to the Nira again, within 6 weeks or so, I forgot about those frown lines, and so that laser is locked back into my skincare routine. And if you click the episode description, you'll see I've included a link both to the Nira Pro and the Dermrays, but also to an article setting out my full skincare routine and the products I use. And I have included discount codes where they are available to me, including for the Nira and Dermrays. And at the time of recording, the brand new Nira Pro 3, which has greater battery capacity and more power settings, is priced at £510 in the UK, $560 in the US. The second generation Nira Pro that I use is currently £441, and I think it's perfectly good enough, while the Dermrays is $699, roughly £525. So these devices are expensive, but with Botox costing at least a couple of £100 or dollars for a single treatment area, over a couple of years, the lasers are a saving. But home laser isn't replacing Botox in a like-for-like way. Botox stops movement. This doesn't. What it is doing is simply minimizing the appearance of wrinkles, reducing the depth and prominence of those deeper lines. It won't tighten skin, lift the face, or erase deep wrinkles. It's much more subtle and gradual and completely dependent on consistency of use. And that's really the key point. For any device or treatment, it's only going to work if you actually use it and keep it up. And for me, that has been the Nira Pro. It's probably not for you if you're looking for quicker, more dramatic results, or you're unlikely to use it consistently, and definitely not if you're expecting Botox level results. And in general, rather than using invasive treatments, I'm looking for ways to support my skin over time, slowing those deeper lines and facial sagging as well. Recently, I had the chance to try a soft wave treatment, which was done by Dr. Darren McEwen at his clinic in Glasgow. It uses ultrasound technology to deliver heat into the mid-dermis, so not as deep as something like owl therapy. And that controlled thermal energy is thought to safely stimulate the natural production of new collagen and elastin, hopefully resulting in tighter, lifted and smoother skin over time. And it takes about 3 months for the results to fully unfold, so keep an eye out in June for my review. But trying to keep my skin fit is part of my overall approach to aging well, which includes strength training and daily walking, a mainly whole foods-based diet, and trying to get 8 hours sleep a night. Also trying to reduce stress, but that is by far my biggest challenge. So let me know in the comments if you feel there are any home or clinical treatments or devices out there that have allowed you to drop Botox or other injectables, and what skin health and fitness means to you as you age. Before I go, if you haven't already, then do hit subscribe or follow to keep up with the latest from us on the Honest channel. And if you'd like to access more from me, including regular vlogs and behind the scenes content, then you'll find a link below to join the channel as a member. And if you want a monthly dose of healthy aging inspiration delivered straight to your inbox, make sure to sign up for my newsletter where I share my latest episodes and articles so you don't miss out. Until next time though, thanks for being here today.